Hello, my name is Manuel Lugo, and today we're going to explore the realities faced by hundreds of thousands of young people living in the US under the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, or DACA for short. And in this episode, we'll hear from DACA recipients who grew up in this country but live with uncertainty about the future. We'll also speak with immigration experts who can help us understand the legal limbo that DACA recipients find themselves in and the potential political outcomes that can shape their lives. Meet Wendy Ochoa, a 26-year-old DACA recipient who came from the United States from Mexico when she was just 2 years old. For Wendy, the U.S. is home, but her life has been shaped by the limitations and the uncertainty of DACA.
I have a distinct memory of my dad was taking me to school. I had missed the bus that day. And this kid was like playing in the streets on a bike by himself unsupervised. And my dad hit him. And I remember like the police getting called, me, like I was scared obviously, so I was hiding like under the seats. And my dad was just like, oh, it's okay, don't worry. And then after we got home later, my mom was just like, listen, Wendy, you have to be really careful with whatever you do. This is like an example, because your dad and I, we don't have papers and you don't either. So you have to follow like every rule. You have to be really good. Otherwise, you could be sent to Mexico like us.
Wendy's story is just one of many shared by DACA recipients, people who have lived, studied, and worked here for most of their lives. But despite the opportunities DACA has given her, she, like many others, lives with a constant fear of what could happen if the program were to end. So, to understand the legal complexity surrounding DACA, I spoke with immigration attorney Charles Cuck, who explained why this program, while impactful, remains in a precarious position.
DACA has been a remarkable, most successful programs in immigration history. Think about this. At its height, almost 1 million people had DACA. Still just a little over half of those eligible. Today, there's only about 530,000 people with DACA. Why? Because almost 1 million people have gotten green cards. And the fact that Congress won't make it official is just truly tragic.
As Charles Cuck pointed out, DACA recipients have no path to citizenship. While the program has allowed hundreds of thousands of people to live and work in the U.S., it doesn't provide a long-term solution. Wendy Ochoa, who we heard from earlier, exemplifies this uncertainty. She lives every day not knowing if she'll be able to continue her life here. Now let's hear from Miriam Roca, another DACA recipient who moved from Peru to the U.S. as a child. Miriam, despite numerous obstacles, has pushed forward in her pursuit of higher education and a career in medicine. Miriam's educational journey has been filled with challenges that many of her peers take for granted.
I went to the City College of New York, which is a CUNY. And even though I was able to get a scholarship to go there, I was pre-med. So I majored in biology and chemistry. One of the big things that they tell you is that it's really important to do research. The issue, though, is where the funding for the research comes from. It was NIH funded, and anything government funded, like I knew I wouldn't qualify for a stipend. It sucked, but I was like, fine, I'll work for free. And even then, that wasn't allowed.
Charles Cuck shares his frustration about how DACA recipients are often blocked from opportunities in education and employment, despite growing up and being educated in the U.S.
Why are we depriving people of kids who we raised here, who grew up here, who were educated here by us? Why are we depriving them of higher education? Why are we depriving them of jobs? This makes no sense whatsoever. So, you don't have to educate employers and universities. You have to educate Republican voters.
As Charles Cuck pointed out, the conversation about DACA is political. Educating voters about the program and how it's not a free handout that just grants people citizenship is important on how people understand DACA. The political decisions that lie ahead of the 2024 presidential election will determine the fate of hundreds of thousands of people that recognize nothing but the United States as their home.